Hey, in today's lesson, we are looking at 5 things that make you sound unprofessional in English, and of course, 5 things that make you sound more professional in English. So if you are looking to take your professional English communication to the next level, this is a great lesson for you. Let's go. All right, so let's start off with the 5 things that come across as unprofessional in English. First, we have using too much slang and informal language, especially in formal situations. Now, of course, depending on your industry, depending on your position, depending on your colleagues, your team, the culture of the place that you're in, this will determine how formal or informal your communication style should be at work. So this is not exactly black and white. There's not one set way of speaking or one rule for every single person in every single industry, of course. However, it is important generally to avoid the use of slang and informal phrases, language, vocabulary, and expressions at work. And at the same time, you don't want to be overly formal to the point where it's difficult for people to understand you or you sound unnatural. Okay, so how do you find the balance here? You basically want to communicate in a more neutral and clear way. Okay, so you don't want to go to one extreme or the other extreme. Don't go too formal, overly formal, and don't go too informal. Instead, try to find some middle ground that is appropriate, again, for your company, for your team, for the culture of the place that you're in, for your industry, for your position, and so on. So even if you are an informal or casual person, you always have to keep in mind how your message is going to come across and be received by others. Now, another thing that can come across as unprofessional in English is interrupting when others are speaking. Even if you have a fantastic idea, important information to share, or a valid point or opinion, it is important that you wait your turn and speak at the appropriate time. If you interrupt or you speak over someone else, this comes across as, of course, unprofessional. It comes across as disrespectful. It also makes you seem impatient, and it shows a lack of regard or respect for the other person's contribution to the conversation. And I know that sometimes conversations or discussions can get heated. Maybe you have something really important that you want to say. You need to wait until the appropriate time, let the other person finish speaking, acknowledge what they have said, and then add your point or your contribution. So it's not always about the words that you say, but it's also about how you speak and how you choose to communicate. You have to be very thoughtful and intentional with the way that you speak and the way that you react and respond to people if you're trying to present yourself as a professional, right? So no interrupting or speaking over other people. Another thing that comes across as unprofessional in business communication is overly emotional responses. Whether you are frustrated, you're angry, or you're too excited, there is a time and a place to express your emotion. And sometimes if you let your emotions get the best of you or take control of you, and you react or respond in an overly emotional way, whether it's positive or negative, this can come across as unprofessional, because it is important for you to be able to manage your emotions and manage your reactions in a professional setting. Of course, we've all been faced with situations at work that are infuriating, that make you very angry, that are frustrating, myself included. And sometimes it's difficult to bite your tongue. This is a good expression. This means to stop yourself from saying something. It can be difficult to bite your tongue and to not speak your mind, but it's extremely, extremely important. And this goes also for writing emails, not only for verbal communication. Sometimes when you write an email in a state of anger or in an emotional state, that comes through to your recipient or to your reader. And if they receive the email later or the next day, maybe you're not angry anymore, but they will still receive that message in an angry or aggressive tone. So it is very important. If you need to, you can excuse yourself from the situation. You can take a break. You can take a minute to regroup, and then you can continue the conversation or the discussion. It's also really easy and important to do this when you're replying to emails. If you are angry or frustrated, take some time to calm down before writing or sending your email. You could also draft your email, step away, come back once you've calmed down, reread it, revisit it, and then send it. Okay? So very important not to react or reply in an overly emotional tone, whether it is positive or negative, if you want to maintain that level of professionalism. Next up, we have poor grammar and or spelling mistakes, okay? Now, I've said many times that it's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the learning process. And of course, it is okay to make mistakes in life in general if you're learning English. However, if you are writing something or preparing something and you have the opportunity and the time to edit, to proofread, to get someone else to check it for you, to use grammar tools and spell checking tools to help you, you absolutely should do that. So there's not really an excuse in these situations where you have the time to check your spelling, the time to check your grammar, the time to proofread your work. In those situations, there's really no excuse. And therefore, it comes across as careless, that you don't really care, you didn't really take the time to pay attention to detail in your work, okay? Of course, when you're speaking, sometimes you're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. But when you're writing, you have the luxury and the advantage of tools and time to help you really get it right. So make sure that you do that. The same goes for a job application, a CV, a cover letter. If there are spelling and grammar mistakes in an application, most of the times it will not even be considered. So this is important to keep in mind as a professional. And another one that comes across as unprofessional is using vague or uncertain language. Okay, vague or uncertain phrases like, I guess, I think, maybe, sort of, okay? These things make you sound like you doubt yourself, like you are unsure of yourself and what you're saying. So if you doubt yourself, why should other people believe in what you're saying, okay? So the easy fix here is just to eliminate these phrases from your vocabulary at work. So if someone asks you a question, are you able to complete this by tomorrow? Yeah, I guess, right? You don't want to respond like that. You can say, yes, I can have it done by tomorrow, or I can definitely have it done by Tuesday, for example. So this is just a matter of choosing your words carefully, reframing the way that you react to something, and eliminating this uncertain language. A lot of us do use these phrases in conversation naturally, and it does indicate some doubt in ourselves. So we really want to eliminate it in professional situations. Now, those are some things that will come across as unprofessional. Let's talk about 5 things that will make you sound more professional in English. First things first, clear and concise communication. This goes for whether you are speaking, writing, making a presentation. Professionals make sure that their message is clear, organized, and easy to understand. You want to avoid unnecessary words, fillers, unnecessary information. Get to the point, respect people's time. Remember that in business, time is money, especially when people are listening to you and giving you their time. You don't want to confuse them and add all this extra information that they don't need. So be clear and be concise. Active listening and appropriate responses are also very professional. So active listening is when you actually listen to the information, process the information, think about it, and then respond. Sometimes people listen to respond. They listen and they're just waiting for the moment that they get to say their piece, share their opinion, and respond. But active listening is when we really consider what the other person is saying and we respond appropriately. So what is an appropriate response? An appropriate response is when you reply directly and acknowledge the other person's point, when you ask follow-up questions, and you give feedback that is relevant to what they have said, okay? So rather than listening, just waiting for the chance to reply, you really want to practice active listening and appropriate and relevant responses to whatever you are discussing. Another important aspect of professional communication is using a polite and respectful tone. A lot of times people think that politeness doesn't matter so much in professional situations, but it really does. It goes a very long way. And in professional situations, people expect politeness. Politeness and professionalism go hand in hand. These things go together. Little things like saying, I appreciate your time, or thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your consideration. These phrases go a long way and are expected in the world of business. So you always want to keep a polite and respectful tone. Even if you are feeling emotional or frustrated, you want to make sure to keep your tone respectful. Now, if you are looking to take your professional English communication to the next level, be sure to check out the Essential English for Business course. This is an online self-study course so you can learn and develop your skills at your own pace. The course is linked down below so you can learn more. Another great one is using people's titles or names to address them. So taking the time to learn, remember, and use someone's name goes a very long way in communication and in building professional connections. When you address people by their title, for example, Mr. Jones or Dr. Jones, for instance, it shows that you are aware of who they are, you care who they are, it shows respect and social awareness as well. And this is a little trick that's useful not only in business, but in social situations as well. When you meet someone new and you address them by name, for example, it was such a pleasure to meet you, Julie. I hope to see you again, Julie. It just shows me that you've learned, remembered, and used my name. It shows that I am important to you and you value this connection that you've made. It's such a small thing, but it really goes a long way. And finally, you want to make sure to communicate in a structured and organized way. Now, this is important for other people to be able to follow what you're saying. A lot of times when we're sharing information in a professional setting or at work, we want to be thorough, we want to be detailed, we want to give as much information as we can. But sometimes this information, even though it's clear in our mind, is not clear for our listener, is not clear for our audience, is not as clear for our colleagues as it is for us, okay? So it's important to be able to organize your information and structure your information in every form of communication, whether it is a conversation, a meeting, an email, a presentation. All forms of communication can be structured. All forms of communication can have some sort of beginning, body, or middle and end, okay? And sometimes this structure is more detailed than other times, but it always exists. It is the way that native English speakers learn to communicate in speaking and in writing. It's something that we are actually taught to do, and it translates into our professional communication. So this is very important. You always want to make sure you are as organized as possible when sharing or delivering information. And organizing your thoughts, your ideas, and information is something I teach in much more detail in the Essential English for Business course. So there you have it, some things that make you sound unprofessional and some things that make you sound more professional in English. If you can think of any more points you'd like to share, drop those in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video and learned something new, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss future lessons, and share this video with other English learners so we can reach more people all around the world. Thank you so much for watching, learning, and spending time here with me today. I will see you very soon in another lesson.